Hello and welcome. Zoe Buckley here from Learning Boosters, and here we are with another one of our blogs. This blog is for Autism Month, which is April, and this blog is all about autistic children, how I work with them, and some of the things that I concentrate on with these children and how wonderful they are to actually teach. So just to start off with, I want to talk about the strengths and the abilities of autistic children. Autistic children, they have a unique style of learning. They're very unique, just like any other child, and they will develop their skills at different rates, just like any other child. The only difference between autistic children and mainstream children is the way that the brain actually works. So I'd like to focus on their strengths and abilities. They have their own interests and their own skill sets, just like any of us do. And it's a great way to engage autistic children in their learning is through their interests. So the main strengths of autistic children are they have very strong visual, rule-based and interest-based skills and thinking. So I'm going to go through each one of these in a little bit more detail in a moment, but I want to just tell you the 5 actual main strengths and abilities of these children. So as I said, number 1 is they have a very strong in areas of visual and rule-based and interest-based thinking. They have an understanding and working of rules and work with rules. They learn best when you make it interesting and you make it something that they are actually interested in. And they remember details and patterns like you would not think. They sometimes zone in on a particular pattern, and I'll get to that in a minute. And they have such attention to detail, and they will say to you, no, that's not right, look at this. And you have another look and you go, oh, that's true. So let's get to the visual learning and thinking. So they might be really good at visual search tasks like finding a triangle within a complex picture, or finding a blue S in a set of red crosses or black S in, if you've got a bit of paper and you've got lots of crosses and S's in it, and some of them are red and some of them are blue and some of them are black, and you ask them to find the blue S's. So they hone in visually on the detail that you're asking them for. And these strong visual skills might be because autistic children tend to focus on details rather than the whole. So also autistic children are often visual learners. So visual information lasts longer and is more tangible than spoken or heard information for autistic children. Visual aspects can help autistic children to process information and choose how to respond. And I will get to an example that I actually use with one of my current students in a moment. You can help your child learn by presenting information visually. You can also use your child's visual skills to help them in other areas. So, for example, if you put visual reminders around your house, if your child can read, then these can be written in words and not just in pictures. Take photos of the different play activities your child can do and put them on an activity board as a reminder to help your child to make choices, and also as a little trick to get them to make the choices you'd like them to make. So you might choose 3 different things for them to do, and you're happy that they're doing any one of those 3. So again, this is thinking about understanding and working within rules and within what they are actually able to process. You can take photos of different activities you'd like them to do that they can get involved in their own daily care and their daily routines and activities like packing their school bag or brushing their teeth. So they stick to the sequence you can stick the sequence on the wall near where the child does that activity, and then you can say, okay, go and pack your school bag, and there it is straight in front of them, and they've got the steps that they need to go through. They can see it visually, even if it's written there as well, and they're not up with their reading just yet, and they know exactly what they need to do. So use these types of visual prompts for daily activities. So I'm just going to show you now something I use with one of my autistic students. So you can actually see I've used photograph down here, and then I've used different pictures, the same picture for each of the things we need to do. So he knows that we come in and we sing an ABC song. He loves singing. So he loves singing the ABC song, and we might do that 2 or 3 times. And then we have a look at our letters. So this is obviously a student who is early reader. So we'll have a look at I usually choose 4 letters a session for us to have a look at and go over the letters we did in the last session. And then we're going to write those letters, and we're going to look at some 3-letter words starting with those letters. So he can see that down here are the tasks. There are 3 tasks we have to do in our session. Oh, that one keeps flipping around, doesn't it? 3 tasks that we have to do in our session, and then his reward is a story, because he loves reading. Reading. He's not at that stage. He likes to pick out the words he knows, but he loves listening to stories and talking about stories. So he knows this goes up for every session. He knows we've got 3 things we have to do, and he goes straight in and does it. So this works really well with our sessions. There's no, you know, I don't know what I'm doing and all that sort of thing, which autistic children can get rather upset when they're not sure exactly what's going to happen. So that's a really good visual, and I use a lot of these visuals with a lot of my other students as well. But as we're talking about autistic children, I got this example out to show you. So he knows exactly what to expect each session. He knows exactly what we will be doing every session, and when all 3 tasks are complete, he knows exactly what his reward will be. Sometimes I move these around. So before we finish the session, I will say to him, okay, next week, I want you to choose. So I'll have other cards like this with different things on it. Choose 3 things we're going to do. So he chooses those 3 things, and then I'll have different things that he likes to do. So sometimes it might be we play with his dinosaur because he loves dinosaurs. So that will come off, and it's got these little sticky things down here, these little Velcro things. That will come up, and we'll put up a picture of a dinosaur, or I'll find a story about a dinosaur, or we will make up our own story about a dinosaur. So these come off quite easily and can be moved around quite easily. He gets a say in what we do the next week. So again, we go back to what I was talking about earlier with the visual learning and with putting things in place that they know exactly what to do and what's going to happen. They get a choice. Okay, so he has 3 things to do. So one of them might be we read 4 words. So it might read words, build words using the magnetic letters, and then we write words, and then we have a story or something else. So this gets changed, but he decides. So at the beginning of the next session, I will remind him, do you remember last week we chose these 3 things to do? You were really clever and you chose 3 things to do, and you want this reward. So that's what we're doing today. If he argues about it, or he goes, no, I don't want to, or whatever, then I will say, but you chose these. You can't have this before we do these. And they're very, very good at saying, okay, or we sit for a moment and I go, well, when you're ready, and it usually takes 30 seconds, and then he comes back on board with what we're going to do because he wants that story, or he wants to play with his dinosaur. So he knows exactly what's going to happen. So autistic children actually have a really great understanding of rules and working with rules. So if you set them in place, they're pretty good at keeping going with them. So the visual type of thing I've just shown you can also be used to strengthen and introduce new skills. It also helps when clear rules need to be made about what needs to be done when, as you can see in that example I just gave you. Other examples might be when you meet someone, you say hello. When it's time to go to bed, you clean your teeth. So these are other things. He might go or she might go to and answer the front door. What do they do when they get to the front door and you might not be there? Put up a visual, open the door, say hello. And from then on, you can use visual prompts as you like. So guiding children with positive wording is also always gets really good responses. And it's like all of us, we like to hear it. So for example, when your child, rather than saying, don't do that, you might try it this way. So you're phrasing it in a positive way. Or rather than do this, you could say, try it this way, or don't do that, or that's wrong. Try not to say those, try and frame it in a positive way. They will respond better to that than in the negative way. So presenting rules in a visual way is a very strong thing for you to be using with your autistic child. And one of the ways I've found helps with some of the students that I have, we've made rule books. Now, sometimes this can be paper and pen if they like drawing, obviously using pictures and words. It can also be done on an iPad. Some kids like to use their iPads. Get them to read this rule book and get them to read it to you, you read it to them, and let them look at it any time they want to. And get them to pick out which rule best fits with what they're trying to do or say. So these types of things are particularly good for non-verbal autistic children as well. They're extremely visual in this case. So I want to have a look at a statement. So a statement is this if statement. So we use that, if this, then that. For example, this is what I used. If this, then that. So if we do all these, we get this. Okay, then we do this. And you just keep referring back to it. Okay, we've done these two, and he's saying, I want my story. Yes, we've done these two, well done. If we do this one, then you get that. And if he keeps going on, you say it again. If we do this one, then we do that. Remember, if we do these three, then we do this one. Okay, because we're not going to give the reward, of course, before we've done what it is that we're expecting to be done. So you can help your child understand what's going on around them in this way, like how other people are feeling even. So if Josh is laughing, then it might be that he's happy. He isn't laughing at you. So again, it's the if this is happening, then this might be happening. So the if and then statement is a really good thing to use verbally with your autistic child as well. So the statements are good for activities with clear steps and sequences, like the example that I've given you today. So you can use them when you want your child to do something. Okay, so that example I've just given that I use constantly with my autistic child, he knows if you do this, then you get that. That's like with us when we go to work. If we work X hours, we get X amount of money to keep us going. Okay, so there's another example. You know, you can use their interests. So if we do this, then we can play with your dinosaurs. Or if we do this, then you can go outside and run around like a mad thing and run off that energy. Okay, so some really good examples there. Or you can use a simpler version, for example, tasks first, then story. Put your bag away, then outside. Because sometimes when we use too much words with autistic children, the processes are slightly different. They just go, I don't know, and they get frustrated. So tasks first, then you go outside. Do this first, then you can do that. So it's again the if and the then. I use that quite often. So like many of us, they have interests in something and will focus intently and want to learn a lot about that particular thing. So autistic children can often focus intently and learn about things that they're interested in and remember them. Their memories are phenomenal. Some of the things that one of my students who's autistic knows about planets and stars and all that sort of thing is just blows my mind every time, because he remembers everything, because he's fascinated by it, so he's intent upon it. That's where his focus is. So moving on from that, I'm going to give you some ideas for developing your child's skills by making the most of their likes. So you can develop play and social skills. When your child's playing with their favourite toys or objects, play alongside them. This is the best time for social interaction and developing communication skills. So commenting on what they're doing, swapping toys, taking turns and asking them what they think. Another way of developing a skill is numeracy skills. So as I said, children can focus really in-depthly upon something. So that bit of paper, I gave an example of the S's and the X's on it, blue and red S's and then black X's. And you say, can you point out the blue X's for me? And they will do that. So using your favourite toy, your child's favourite toys again, and in that developing play and social skills, you can also develop the numeracy skills by talking about colours, numbers and size. So for example, which one's the green toy car and which one's the black and which is the big truck and which is the small truck, those sorts of things. Daily care skills. Now, building challenging activities by using the things they're interested in to develop their cooperation. So, for example, if they're having a bath, if having a bath is challenging, and you can give your child some special toy interest or toys to play with in the bath, or you can stick lots of pictures around the bath of things they're interested in and then ask them certain things about it. That's a way of getting their focus off and anxiety off and focus off the fact, oh no, I'm going to have a bath. Okay, because we might think it's totally illogical, that thinking of, uh-oh, I'm having a bath. But the way that we can help the child to overcome that is by using their interests and developing those skills so that you're taking the focus off the thing they don't want to do onto the things that they like. And then all of a sudden they're sitting in the bath, they're fine. So we don't have those endless dramatics every time. Conversation skills. Talk about their favourite things a lot and what they think. Ask them what they think. If they're showing interest in them, then they're likely, if you're showing interest in them, then they're likely to reciprocate with you. And they're more likely to communicate with you because you're talking about their favourite things. They may say to you, what's your favourite dinosaur? And you go, you know what? I don't know. Can you suggest some? And then they're more likely to come to you if they've got some problems or issues with something that's happening to them. So the best thing in those cases is to use open-ended questions, because that way you're not giving them an answer, you're actually asking them for what they think. So another thing that's really good with autistic children, and with most children actually, is repetition and routine. So repetition and routine are an integral part of the life of an autistic child or the life of any child. Knowing what to expect and when to expect it is a great thing to help children feel safe and secure. So they're very good at learning things by heart. They quite often will remember large amounts of information that you've read them from a book. They will also remember patterns in numbers or letters. And this is a great way when teaching them about safety and getting them to remember your address or phone number. Also noting and remembering details and patterns. So autistic children have a great capacity for remembering things. They also tend to notice tiny details, which we've already kind of touched on, and patterns that most of us actually will miss or usually miss. It's a great way to nurture their creativity and their imagination. So, for example, draw a squiggle on a page and get them to talk about it. Talk about what they see and then write a story about it. Write a story around that squiggle. Get them to add things to that squiggle to make it into a character or something else. So their strong attention to detail can mean sometimes that they get lost in this detail and miss the bigger picture of why we do certain things or learn certain things or have to know certain things. So in this situation, we need to help them put the information together. So for example, a child can get fixation on, I've got one of my students who has a fixation on trees, for instance, and I have a tree across the road from where I actually teach. And one day he got really fixated on the bark on the tree and was heading towards it, and he didn't notice a car coming down. And of course I grabbed him quickly and pulled him back, but he got upset because I'd actually been mean to him, he said. And so I had to explain the bigger picture because his fixation was on that bark and wanting to go and touch it and look at it. Nothing wrong with that, but he needed the bigger picture to say, well, darling, I pulled you back like that. I didn't mean to hurt you because of the car coming. So what do we do when we get to a road? What's the first thing we have to do? Look left, look right, you know, those sorts of things. So it can be a really good tool. Their interest can be a really good tool for helping them to learn things, to understand. They need to work within rules and guidelines, and that's where the visual comes in. So the reason I've put all this together is understanding autistic people and understanding that they're unique. The only difference between them and mainstream people is that their brains work differently. They have fantastic abilities and unique abilities that, you know, some of which I don't have. Attention to detail can be, you know, one of them, for instance. And I wanted this to help people, to encourage people to take that step towards dispelling the myths and the misconceptions about autistic people. So I hope that's helped, and I will see you next month for our next Wisdom Wednesday blog. See you then. Bye.